Welcome to the debate. I'm your host, Sana Maqbool, with you at PTV World. In today's show, we will be discussing two very important stories. The first is with reference to what is going on in India, and of course, something that we have been speaking about in the past as well, where the BJP regime and its Hindutva ideology tries to suppress any voice which is any different from theirs, and then actively also tries to suppress the voices of people who are speaking up against the kind of action that have been taken by the BJP, especially against the Muslims within India as well. And in doing so, we have seen that numerous accounts have been blocked on Twitter. A lot of the people all around the world who have been reporting human rights violations within India, their accounts have been blocked, which include prominent journalists as well. And we know that the Twitter accounts have also been blocked through Twitter by requests of the Indian government, something which the Twitter has claimed to be according to in line with its policies, and said that any request that is coming in from an entity such as the government is taken seriously, and if it's not in line with that government's particular rules and laws, then it is taken off, which of course is something that is questionable at the moment, since there have been reports of accounts not blocked despite requests as well. And how exactly does it even violate the laws within India? We're going to be exploring that as well. And then of course the idea entirely of freedom of expression, especially that which reports violence, which reports injustice, that being curtailed, and that too by a very prominent social media, which of course is something which is harmful to the people who are suffering at the hands of the Indian government and the BJP regime. And that of course points to the fact whether or not we can actually put into account the contributions of social media platforms such as Twitter in being accomplice to such actions as well, since the real voices of the people are being shunned and they're being deprived of the due platform to be able to speak up for their rights. So we're going to be exploring all that in further detail. We'll also take a look at what is going on at home with regards to the local body elections, and in the aftermath of which what is really going to happen. We explored this a bit yesterday as well in a program with regards to the free and fair elections that we were expecting, and then the impact it's going to have and how the ECP is going to proceed, especially in terms of the general elections. We're also going to be exploring the cracks in the alliance that seem to be developing. There have been a lot of voices that have been raised against the government's policies and what the government is doing. The coalition government, of course, was an important aspect of the current government that was formed after the ouster of the previous Prime Minister. And there have been reservations that were raised by different political parties. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif also tried to talk to the allies and clear their reservations and exemplify the fact that this is, of course, something which is important to not just him but his government as well, and that all the parties need to work together for the progress of the country. But how much that is going to actually evolve in terms of the political scenario of the country and what are we going to be seeing in the future, that is under discussion in the show today. For this and more, I've been joined in the studios, as always, by Farrukh Pitafi and Raja Faisal. And for our first segment, we've been joined by the Executive Director, Media Matters for Democracy, Mr. Asad Beg, and Samit Bir, who's an Indian political analyst. They've both joined us online. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being a part of the show. Before I go to my guests online, I'll go to you, Farrukh. When we speak about the issue of freedom of speech and of course the idea of being able to report injustice wherever it is very essential to a journalist as well. When we talk about the forms that are used, social media of course is very important in these times, and Twitter of course is a very essential platform. But when there are actively efforts made to shun the voices specifically of journalists as well, which are in fact there to be able to report crimes or to be able to bring the truth out in the public, that has a serious consequence for people everywhere and anywhere that are looking for justice. How do you see the current move by Twitter, which has blocked various accounts on the Indian government's request?
Right, Sana, this is a very important question, and let me actually first highlight the fact that since Narendra Modi's government has taken over in India, there has been, the media has witnessed regressive trends. One, we saw the hostile takeover of many television channels, which actually are under the control of only a few businessmen who are friendly towards Modi government. But that is not all. Then they came up with these laws to actually censor social media. And these social medias or the platforms, because India is a big country, they had to actually make sure that they are not banned there. They had to cooperate with the authorities. Having said that, the current spate actually starts with one very important story that you and I have already covered. Remember Nupur Sharma, the BJP spokesperson who actually blasphemed and made hurtful comments about Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam on their channel. After that, although it was on national media, it was open source, you could watch it anywhere. But one website, that is Alt News, which is a fact checker, their editor actually, Muhammad Zubair, actually took out the clip and he tweeted it. That video clip became viral, and then because of that, all the Muslim countries actually rallied against India. At that time, Indian government kept on saying that Nupur Sharma's statement does not reflect our policy. But then something very interesting happened. Nupur Sharma was never arrested. She is in hiding. And yesterday, Muhammad Zubair was called for a case that was registered in 2020. But after that, once he appeared there, he was arraigned for allegedly making a tweet. Actually, he took a picture from a film and he tweeted that. And he was booked for that. Today he was presented before the courts, and the courts actually have remanded him for 4 or 5 days. So this is the story. After that, Indian government has gone on this witch hunt against everybody who was actually Indian and who was criticizing the Indian government. So now what we see is repeated requests regarding these websites and these groups that their voice should be culled or curtailed in India. And because these platforms are there to make money, they are censoring according to the demand. Then there was very interesting development regarding another case, because somebody, family of a victim of Gujarat riots, actually went to the court, and she also actually demanded that the entire case be reopened. After that, one of the major voices of Gujarat human rights, Tista Sitalwad, she was also arrested, and she has also been accused of getting money from abroad. So this entire story goes on, and because of this paranoia, Indian government is, instead of actually fixing the problem, that is its own people making such statements which are outrageous, they are culling the voices which are there to inform the world. And unfortunately, yesterday, because of the G7 summit, Narendra Modi actually made commitment that India is going to ensure freedom of expression both online and offline. And that was the day when this happened. So there seems to be some kind of linkages. Perhaps there's a possibility that somebody wants to embarrass Prime Minister Modi, or then it can also be a policy.
All right, and I want to talk about that in further detail as well. But before that, Faisal, your account also is one of the accounts that has been blocked. And of course, it is indeed a tragedy, because this is something that we really don't want to see. And this is quite essential to journalists all around the world as well. And for somebody like Twitter to be able to do this on the request of the Indian government is of course something we need to talk about. I understand that there are rules in place that Twitter keeps referring to, but at the end of the day, the impact that it's having on the people, on the suffering of the Muslim population specifically in India is huge. Shouldn't the rules and obligations that we keep hearing about be in line with human rights and actually what freedom of speech really is?
Exactly, Sana, and especially whenever we read out obviously the Western media and everywhere that they advocate the freedom of speech, they advocate freedom of press. Here it is, a journalist from Pakistan who's sharing different news, who's sharing a news that might not be liked in India, because it's a different perspective. It's as they say, grass is not always green on the other side. So it is not green at this side. Indians, they might propagate that it is always green, but it is not here. And I have been doing that, nothing different. And my language, the language I have been using, it has always been very clear, and it has always been I have never used any slurs or anything like that. I don't know why I've been sent an email by Twitter which said that in accordance to the Information Technology Act 2000 of India, I am getting off-aired in India because my content is considered as sensitive and unacceptable in India.
Right.
And they have blocked me in there, which is once again, me being a journalist, I have a right to raise my voice that should reach. I have a following within India as well. They follow my account in a very large number. So it is not only my right to tell them is being infringed, but there are so many Indians who have a right to read me, but they are not given a right to read me. You know, that is what is happening.
Absolutely.
And if we look at Mohammed Zubair's case, did you know that police, it registered a case just because of one reason, because there was this Twitter user, his name was Balaji Ki Jai, and this Balaji Ki Jai account, it had only one follower and it follows no one, so it's a fake account, and they have mentioned it not only in the FIR which was registered against Mohammed Zubair, but also in ANI, which is considered as the premier news agency of India. It is mentioning that there, and it is very foolish of them to mention that.
Right.
Why? Because straight away the obviously, if you go to that account, there is only one follower of that account, and it's a fake account.
I understand that, and it may be very apparent, but I want to also include Sumit in discussion and understand whether or not it's apparent to him what is going on as well. We had discussions earlier as well with regards to what is going on within India, but with specifically freedom of speech. This is something, again, what Farrukh pointed out, the Modi regime claims at least to be or to stand by. But when we see what is going on, of course, it's a completely different situation. So many accounts have been blocked, and when you really dig deep, it's not really something which seems evident enough, a reason enough for them to be able to be blocked, especially when they are journalists reporting facts. What is it that is so sensitive about what is going on that basic freedom of speech cannot be allowed within India? What is it that the Indian regime or the BJP government so afraid of? Is there no space for any difference of opinion in India?
Well, Sanaji, thank you very much for having me on your program. The point number one is, when you talk about Twitter as such, Twitter is not an Indian identity. It's identity run out of the United States of America. Let me put on record instantly. My account has been blocked.
But it follows the rules and obligations of India. That's
the
where
host
it's
country.
blocked. That's why.
Yeah.
That's what is being referred to.
No, my account has been blocked twice. My account, right? After having done 3,000 debates and more than 500 articles in the global media, they say I don't have sufficient credentials for my account to get a blue tick. That is how Twitter stands. I'm telling you on your media, I've told this on numerous times on my national media. I've written to this to Twitter also. That's the credibility of the Twitter. The point number two, if you're talking about the Mohammed Zubair in particular, there are thousands of Muslim journalists here who are running free. Their accounts are running free. There's no problem at all. If there's a freedom of expression crisis, why in every day you will have 50 to 100 Pakistanis given a platform on our national TV, which has access to crores and crores of people, and they can talk live. There's no way you can censor them on a national TV. Every day there are Pakistanis, including the two panelists here. They have been numerous times on our national TV, and they can speak whatever they want. If that is the policy, then you will not allow Pakistanis to come on the national TV. So that's not the policy.
Sumit, hang on. If one appears on your television channels, if something the host doesn't like, what happens? Their voices are muted.
Exactly.
It keeps on happening repeatedly until I decided not to participate in those channels. So that never happens here. I'm talking to you, and you can please resume.
Sumit, let me tell you about myself. I used to be considered as someone very soft-spoken, and that that impression of me, it vanished when I started getting into Indian programs, because constantly they were reducing my voice, and I had to raise my own voice to match with their pitch.
And by the way, all these accounts which have been blocked received emails stating that the Indian government has moved their law, moved the court, and ordered them to censor these voices.
Right, so you can't blame Twitter.
You have to give me an opportunity to answer. The point here is that,
please
I mean, you are not coming to Indian media. The other people are coming to Indian media regularly. I see every day around 50 odd people who are on Indian media. I also come on Pakistan media, but that's okay. So if that is the case, why should you allow somebody with the crores of people watching you live and there's no way to edit or do anything, come to the main national TV and speak? Point number two, you can come to the Indian YouTube channels, there's no censorship. Point number three, I want to make here, there are thousands of Muslim journalists here. It's not a question of Mr. One Mohammed Zubair, because as per the law of the land, he has all the legal liberties. Yesterday, just 1.5 months back, you will remember there was a Hindu girl, she was put 41 days in jail just for tweeting something against NCP leader.
I still don't understand what exactly was wrong with this journalist's account and why was it exactly blocked. But I'll come back to you, and I want to include Mr. Asad in the discussion as well. Asad, you heard most of what we've been talking about, and I want to understand also India's perspective in all of this and how do you see the situation. But I also want to be able to understand the way social media platforms worldwide work as well. Shouldn't they be perhaps more in line with human rights in a more universal sense than just talking about the host country and putting it on them, that it is because of the policies within that host country is that we're removing the accounts, when in fact what actually is happening is that injustice is being protected and the voices of the people who are suffering, they are being curtailed, and that has an impact globally. So we all should do something about that.
And Asad, one more question. You know, we follow each other on social mediums. Have you ever seen me doing something that needs to be blocked in India?
What exactly is unacceptable? I still don't get it.
Asad, go ahead.
Thank you. So just give me one moment, and I'll try to answer all the questions. There are a couple of things I would like to add, starting with what you asked, Sana. So the answer to your question is yes, we expect platforms, international platforms like Twitter, to be more open and to be more respectful of the freedoms and whatnot. And frankly speaking, if I say it personally, I'm extremely disappointed by Twitter in the way they have acted and kind of succumbed to the demands of the Indian government or any government for that matter. But also, we've seen that there is a certain amount of history as well between Twitter and the Indian government. We've seen there were FIRs launched against the Twitter executive in India, and the person in question had to resign in this particular case, if I'm not wrong. So clearly, this is not an attempt in isolation, and there has been a campaign, so to speak, a long campaign to subdue Twitter and other platforms. So that's one. The second point is that Twitter, in this point in time, has a legal liability under the IT Information Act of India, legal liability in India to basically take on whatever content that the Indian government authorizes to be taken down and limit and withheld the accounts that the Indian government or any agency which is empowered in India to take down for. And same is the case that we've seen that they've taken down accounts of Pakistani embassies, and Raja Faisal was talking about it. Even Rana Ayub. Now, Rana Ayub is a very interesting character, and this kind of this incident itself shows us that this is not an isolated incident. It's not either limited to the social media world. Rana Ayub was stopped from traveling to an international event that she was traveling for a while ago, and we've seen there's a book called titled "I'm a Troll" by Swati Chaturvedi. I mean, it very clearly puts out in public and puts out for everybody to read how the social media has been weaponized and whatnot. And one last thing, I mean, I understand where the Indian government is coming from to quote unquote stop the harm which is coming from the social media. Sure, why not? But let's maybe then start with withholding the accounts of Hindutva pop that has been making rounds on the social media. Al Jazeera did a very interesting story on how quote unquote Hindutva pop is getting traction and how the Islamophobia is now being sort of introduced in terms of music and whatnot, and they have millions and millions of views now.
Asad, that is a good point. I want to actually come back to you, and there's a simple question. Your organization also monitors digital democracy and quality of democracy also. If a government is blocking so many accounts, and if it is trying to censor a particular segment of media, do you think that country, it reflects poorly on that country's democracy?
Oh, absolutely, Farrukh. To be honest with you, I was surprised. I just saw the pictures of Modi ji shaking hands with Justin Trudeau, yesterday, and making kind of like a very friendly gestures with all these Western leaders. And frankly speaking, I was shocked, at least to see that on one side they're kind of trying to present this very soft image of India, and on the other side we see that there is a constant crackdown on civil liberties of a very select group of people. I agree with Sumit on one point that there may be people who continue to sort of operate and post content, but then we see a very targeted approach in this. For instance, Rana Ayub, I mean, there have been actions upon action targeting her for a long time, and same goes for Zubair. I mean, the tweet he posted in 2018, now suddenly it's creating harm. So all of these things point very directly to the malafide of the Indian government, if I may say. And this is, by the way, least that I'm saying at this point.
Yeah, Sumit, first of all, I want to hail your policing services, because they've, as soon as the case was registered against Mohammed Zubair, they straight away caught him. And of course, they wanted a very prolonged time of, remand. But the court only allowed for 1 day.
No,
so all hails.
5 days. 5 days.
Yeah,
Today.
all hails to them. But what happened to them when they were asked to, capture Nupur Sharma? Is she hiding somewhere, or what has happened to her?
And
why they have failed? Aren't there double standards? Can't you see that there are double standards in it?
And Samit, let me ask you about the way this guy was arrested. He is called in for another case, and then he is shown this new charge sheet. He is not actually given the FIR that was against him, and he is arraigned, he is arrested. And there too, if you have followed today's proceedings, he is making it clear that the tweet that he actually put out in 2018 was actually from a film. He did not create anything. That bit about Hanuman instead of Honeymoon Hotel, that was also from your film since 1983. I think it was made in 1983. Why do you think that actually necessitates such an entrapment?
Okay, let me answer you. There are a couple of questions. So allow me a minute or so to order.
Yeah,
answer. Point number one is, if Twitter is taking instructions from the Indian government, and then why my account was blocked twice, and why did you see Rana Ayub's account blocked even once? No. That's the point number one. So did Indian government also give instructions to block Donald Trump's account? So does Jack Dorsey or the Parag Agarwal listen to Modi ji and he blocked Donald Trump from the Twitter? That's the first thing we have to answer. The point number two, regarding this, Mr. Zubair.
You don't want to see the point, sir. Frankly, there are laws. All the IT companies follow the laws in your country, so they are bound to follow those laws and actually follow instructions of the Indian government.
No, let me complete. So the point is there that the Twitter has an option. Twitter is not allowed in China. If they think they are so strafed, they are not.
Sir, we are not sitting in China. Neither you are Chinese nor I am.
Why are they in India? Because they make money. India is one of the biggest markets for them, and the amount of freedom of expression we have in India, we don't have in anywhere. And let me come to the Zubair's case. Now, in case of Zubair, there are thousands of Muslim journalists, sir. You cannot say that.
I'm not calling him a Muslim. I'm calling him a journalist. Can we speak to the fact that a journalist was arrested because of his tweet?
I want to talk about the Tista Setalwad. When the Sessions Court, when the High Court, when the Supreme Court, when the SIT gives clean chit to Mr. Modi, and on the request of the Supreme Court of India, they have said that this person and her NGO should be persecuted. This is the instruction of the Supreme Court of India. This is not an instruction of the Prime Minister Modi. So
just to be clear, you are saying that Indian Supreme Court ordered the police to persecute Ms. Setalwad.
Let me clarify. Good, you asked me. Indian Supreme Court in its judgment has mentioned that Tista Setalwad and her NGO have been responsible for doing this. They have been orchestrating evidence. They have been running this propaganda, and the people like her should be put to dock. This is quote unquote what the Supreme Court of India has said.
But you use word persecuted, right?
And Supreme Court has given clean chit to Prime Minister Modi. No, if you are fabricating evidence, if you are filing false affidavits, if you are concocting evidence, then the law of the land.
But I am going back to your word. You used a word. You said that the persecution. The court ordered to persecute her.
No, should be brought to the docks. This is what the word used is. That should be brought to the docks. There should be kind of.
All right, Samit, I want to understand something. You keep talking about what Twitter has done in the past and how your accounts have been blocked as well, and what the Indian government does. I want to understand, irrespective of whoever you want to blame at this point in the situation, do you even understand or agree with the fact that what has happened is incorrect and shouldn't have happened? The accounts of these journalists shouldn't have been blocked, that there wasn't anything that warranted these actions, and that it is unacceptable for a journalist to not be allowed to speak or report whatever it wants to speak or report about.
Well, Saraji, it's an interesting question. You
Simple.
see, if you're a person living in India, then the law of the land or the government of India has rights to, do whatever they want because they have to protect peace and harmony of the country. But if you're a
So
Pakistani
you agree this should have happened?
no,
So you
if you're a
should have happened,
practically,
right?
yes, he's supporting it.
Please let me complete. If you're a Pakistani journalist and your account is blocked, then the government of Pakistan should take it with the Twitter. Then if the Indian government is powerful enough to get accounts of every and any journalist blocked across the world, then this is for your government of Pakistan to handle it with the Twitter, because Twitter is not an Indian company. It does not.
But,
It is.
That's not the point.
Let me qualify the point. What has happened? These accounts have not been blocked around the world. They have been
Yeah.
blocked within India.
Only in India.
Upon the request of the Indian government. Elsewhere, they are available, right?
government for
And by the way, you appreciate one nuance. I hope you do, that Twitter has its own rule guides as well.
Yes.
And you can occasionally violate them and get blocked. But when
Sir.
Indian government actually requests it, it is blocked specifically in India.
No, I'm telling you, then why is Twitter blocking the account of a Pakistani journalist? If they block somebody in
This
India
is
who's with
like a
I
dialogue of the
understand.
deaf.
But that is
not
what.
just-
Thank you,
All
Sumit.
right,
Sumit,
let us go to
Sumit, let me
Asad
tell
as
you.
well.
Yeah, Asad as well. Asad, from whatever Sumit has said right now, I sense a sort of mellified intent from India. He himself said that why, as a Pakistani, I'm being obviously blocked in India, because it's a mellified intention from India. Because if we talk about the content, same kind of content, I can find so many people who are sharing it from Britain, sharing it from Canada as well, especially related to Khalistan movement, related to Kashmir movement, and related to the treatment of India in in India today against the Muslims. So that is what I'm sharing, and here I'm being blocked. Can I seek help from one of the departments of Pakistan to get to Twitter to unblock myself from India, because I'm being victimized by India just because of one reason, because I'm a Pakistani. Can I raise it? And if I do it, who will do it for me?
And adding to that, I also want to understand that since it's easy to just say that this is the host country and it's their laws and it's what they say and that's why it's done, is there no way that Twitter can be held accountable by global opinion or people all around the world, or can it actually face any sort of consequence or needs to clarify this, whatever it's done or its policies, like Facebook had to do in the past?
There's no international law.
Yeah. So
But go ahead.
to answer your
No, I
questions
meant
quickly.
international opinion.
Yeah. Azad,
One, yes, thank you. One, to Raja Faisal's question, I don't think that there is a platform other than Twitter that you can, at this point in time, contact. Number one. Number two, Sana, we need to understand here the legality of all of this. So it's not Twitter saying that we respect, quote unquote, the laws of Indian government. They are under a legal liability in India, according to the new laws, the Information Technology Act. There has been a lot of debate on these laws and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so it's not just that the Twitter, out of the goodness of their heart, quote unquote, respect the laws. They're legally liable. If they don't respect them, then they'll have a legal sort of a liability case or whatever the charge under the laws is
and
that
they
they'll
can be
have to.
blocked. Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead. Yeah.
To address the points of my friend Sumit here, number one, Rana Ayoob's account was withheld on the 26th or 27th of June. She herself has tweeted, and she got an email from Twitter saying that your account has been withheld in accordance to the IT Act of India, and so on and so forth. So her account is being withheld, number one. Number two, I still fail to understand. Look, I completely understand what you're saying and where the Indian government is coming from. In any democracy, in any society, who needs protection from what? So a majority needs protection from a minority, or a minority needs protection from a majority, right? If majority is the one who's the culprit here, if a majority is the one who's also producing content like Dutua Pop, for instance, and they're being very actively consumed by the Indian population, then what should be the priority of Indian government? To block Mohammed Zubair and Rana Ayoub, or to make cases against the people who are actually trying to weaponize Islamophobia and trying to create unrest in India? Now,
Right.
my point is,
Absolutely.
if none of these is done in accordance to the law against the people who are producing Hindutva pop or trying to sort of radicalize people in India and try to rally upon the Muslim minorities and other minorities as well, then clearly it's a malafide. Now, you tell me if, frankly speaking, I'm unsure of whether or not there has been any cases against the people who have been weaponizing the Hindutva ideology to target minorities in India. But maybe you can talk a little about that. Maybe how many cases have you seen in India about that?
Can I answer?
Yeah.
Mr. Samit, you wanted to add something there, and please, since it's going to be the last question of this segment as well, could you also clarify exactly when we talk about the issues of Hindutva ideology and the kind of impact they're having, why is it that the democratic secular Indian government doesn't do much about that and not request Twitter to take off their accounts as well?
And did you actually answer the question about Nupur Sharma?
Sure. Sorry. Let me tell you, Nupur Sharma is very well in Delhi. She has been contacted by Mumbai police and all. She's not absconding. She's very much in India and she's cooperating with the legal authorities. That is the news as per today. Point number 2, there was recently after this Nupur Sharma fiasco, there was a kind of a FIR lodged around 21 people. 11 of them are Hindus. And there have been numerous people who are from the Hindu faith whose accounts have been blocked. And for your information, and by faith, I'm also Hindu. So it is not only the accounts of Muslims are blocked, the Hindus are not blocked. So whoever is responsible for kind of, where when you say the communal harmony of the place is kind of in threat, the accounts will be disabled as per the request of the government. There is no discrimination between a Hindu and Muslim. It was only Muslims. And how can you allow thousands of Muslim, journalists to run their accounts in India? And besides these two, my friends on the panel, there are other 10,000 of the Pakistani and Qatar and all Arab journalists who are also carrying their accounts. So then the action would be done against all of them. So it is not something against
All right, thank
Islam.
you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Samit and Mr. Asad Beg, for joining us and being a part of the debate. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for. Farrukh, before we conclude, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, actually, it reminded me of one line from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. That there is this character or this creature called bug-bladder beast of troll. But it is such a stupid animal that if it thinks that if it can't see you, you can't see it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So the biggest problem at this moment, the Indian government's behavior is such that they want actually to pull wool on the eyes of its own people.
Yeah.
And they think that the world is not going to notice. That is not going to happen.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes,
Sana, I just wanted to mention, right at the end, we did raise the point about, Nupur Sharma as well. And our friend, he said that she is, very well in touch with the police and everything.
Cooperating with
the
authorities.
Cooperating. So,
Not arrested.
Question is, what about Mohammed Zubair?
Yeah.
Did they assess his cooperation with the police? Did they try to assess that? And why Nupur Sharma is not getting caught and sent for a remand?
Yeah.
Right, absolutely.
Terrible
It is.
business.
It is indeed. We're going to now move on to our second segment of the show, which is with reference to what is going on within Pakistan and its political scenario. For this, we've been joined online by Mr. Ali Rashid, as the leader PPP. Thank you very much, Mr. Ali, for joining us and taking the time out to be part of the debate. In the aftermath of the local body elections and what has happened in the National Assembly, there seems to be issues being raised with the way the PMLN government has been working or taking various measures. The political parties that formed the coalition government have been raising their own concerns as well. And this is something that was talked about previously as well since the ouster of the previous Prime Minister, that perhaps this coalition government is eventually going to be seeing these cracks. What do you make of the situation right now? And do you think that this is something that is under control and in fact there is going to be unity among the different political parties?
And Ali, many of your coalition partners are really angry and dissatisfied with the turnout and the way result came in Sindh local bodies elections. What are you doing to actually woo them?
Thank you so much for having me here. You see, the thing is, I do understand there are issues going on, and in democracy, it happens sometimes. We do have issues. But if you look at all the allies and all our partners who are with us, not one of them have actually said something like that we plan to leave the government or will be leaving anytime soon.
MKM.
They did. No, even
MKM
didn't say that. MKM didn't say we'll leave. MKM said we are not leaving, we'll still be part of the government, but we will come out on the streets and maybe register our protest. At the same time, MQM also said that we have full faith in Chairman Bilawal and Mr. Asif Ali Zardari, and we trust their word, but we are just unhappy with the pace things are going at. They just want things to speed up. And I do understand the concerns, but that being said, what I want them to understand, as soon as we got this, as soon as Imran Khan left and we became part of this setup, we had a lot of issues which we were facing, the economy, IMF, etc. So everybody was very busy, and as soon as that happened, then we had the first phase of local body elections which were happening. So now that those things have settled down a bit, and that being said, we've had several meetings with the MQM regarding the charter of demands which they had, and we're not backing out from any of the points which we've agreed on. We're willing to work on them, but they're very complicated. You see, it's not as simple as it's being made to seem that okay, let's do this.
Ali, if we talk about the allies of the government, obviously there is one name I want to mention here, that is Aslam Bhutani. He, on the floor of the parliament, he said it that we were being treated better than this in the previous government of obviously the PTI. And if we look at that, these kind of statements, if we obviously assess the 3 years they have been with them, if they can leave them after 3 years, and now they are claiming that they were being treated better than this in their setup, if they can leave them, what makes you so assured that they will not be leaving this setup?
And by the way, just to summarize this question further, what have you done, sir, which is so strange that they who actually tolerated the previous government for 3 years seem to be really wary of your presence?
Sorry, I don't understand the last question. That they?
No. What have you done to annoy them so much that they have started voicing their concerns against you so early in the game?
You see, I'll tell you. Okay, I understand your question now. The thing is with the chap who spoke on the floor of the House, he did raise his concerns that he actually was trying to get in touch with Mr. Ehsan Iqbal, and he felt that the way things should have been conducted and the issues which he wanted resolved should have been resolved were not being addressed as such. At the same time, he said, I'm very displeased with the way things are handled, but end of the day, by whatever means, the work has been done. So he's satisfied that yes, whatever I wanted done is now done, but I'm just not too happy with the way things, I'm sure when so many parties come together in such a short time and we have...
So it was a concern about PMLN, not your party?
Yeah, of course not. In fact, he went on to praise Asif Ali Zardari Saab, saying that he's the only one who actually, sat everybody down and made things happen. So, so I think these are teething issues, and these are very initial stages. This government, which has been formed right now, it's a newborn baby. It's been only 2 to 3 months. Just give us some time. Rome wasn't built in a day, and all
but
these
Ali, there's another very serious concern. We have been hearing that PTI actually wants to challenge all of the parties in the elections that are going to come. And then we heard your leaders and various other leaders as well that there is a possibility of forging ahead with a coalition alliance, electoral alliance actually. When you are not ready to share your own sphere of interest or influence in Sindh, why would any other party be a coalition partner with you elsewhere?
And before you answer that, Ali, let me just welcome another Ali in the show, Mr. Ali Osad is a Karachi-based journalist who's joined us online. Thank you very much for being part of the debate. Yes, Mr. Ali Rashid, go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Now, to answer that question, I think it's a bit unfair to say that we're not sharing the things in Sindh, because in my opinion, we are being very supportive. If you look at the first phase of interior Sindh, the local body elections which happened, there was an independent candidate, a woman whose father runs a donkey cart. She defeated one of our, PPP the person from in interior Sindh in one of the seats. So that being said, that we're being unfair and the elections are rigged and we were using the administration is, I think, untrue. And I think that's something which every party does when they lose. They, the accusations are there. I think, and if we were so, Sindh and Karachi and elsewhere, since we have the Sindh government, if we were so in control and if we were, using force and the administration and Sindh police, please tell me, only a few weeks back, a month back, there was NA 240 elections from Landi, where there was an election where MQM was the number 1 party, TLP came number 3, Mohajir Qawmi movement of Afaq Ahmed came number 3, and People's Party came number 4. If we were up to this,
No, but you are talking about Karachi. You are not talking about interior Sindh, which is a different story. JUIF is angry, MQM is angry, GDA is angry, umpteen other parties, JI is angry. So there are cases, but you wanted to go to the other guest.
Yes, I'll go to Mr. Ali Osad and speak to him with regards to what has happened in the local police elections as well. Thank you for joining us in the debate. We, of course, heard different reports of violence in different polling stations as well. And then, of course, there were complaints with regards to the entire process and conduct of the elections as well. What is the situation like in terms of what the people are viewing the entire process as? And of course, when we look at the kind of polarization that sort of exists between different followers of different political parties, what is the general opinion with regards to how the elections have been conducted? Do the people see them as free and fair?
Hello.
Yes, Mr. Ali Osad, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you. Can you please repeat your question, please?
Sure. My question is with regards to the local bodies elections in Sindh, and of course we've been hearing reports of violence or also reports of the entire process of the elections perhaps not being fair. There have been different complaints that have been raised in various parts. I want to understand how the people have viewed these elections in general in terms of them being free and fair.
Okay. Generally speaking, there is some reports. Massive violence has been reported in interior some parts of the city, and you know that 2 people also have been killed in Tandu Adam and Sakkar. So people and there is no doubt People's Party clean sweep the local bodies first phase of local body selection. So, but people in my sense thought there is some kind of rigging because People's Party has used police in large scale and massive riggings, and their activists also tortured against opponents, activists of especially the GUI and GDA and other parts. So people generally believe this is not fair elections. And they also put doubts on election commissions because People's Party has been ruling in Sindh for 14 years, and they thought election commission also play negative role and part of People's Party.
All right, all right. Let me go back to Mr. Ali Rashid. Mr. Ali Rashid, you heard what Mr. Ali Osad was talking about, and he claims that people think that these elections were not free and fair. Do you agree with the statement? And if there is any truth to it, or if there is a concern that people share, then what does the People's Party intend to do about it?
Look, it's been, I think it happens after every election. Any party which has lost the elections, they do say that's been rigged. They do, but election commission is there, which is an autonomous body. They've been seeing everything, the complaints they've gotten, they've reviewed it, and nothing has come out of it, right? And then here I'm quoting and giving examples.
But you have to understand one thing. There might be issues with the allegations of rigging, but how do you account to the fact that 2 people are dead? Law and order situation is going to play a major role because the environment is very charged, and it is. We are going to have national elections also soon.
Look, okay, I'll tell you something. Look, now the thing is, when elections take place, things do get charged, and these kind of incidents do happen. And I'll give an example again of a recent election of the National Assembly, 240, where TLP, MQM, and PSP exchanged, and
So collateral damage.
A person died. So, no, it's not collateral. I'm saying we can't pin it to People's Party, right? These kind of things do happen.
But you are ruling the province.
It's a very unfortunate. No, we do understand. And we do feel that this needs to be addressed. We do understand that, there are shortcomings which need to be worked on. I'm not denying responsibility. I think I'm totally agreeing. Law and order situation is our responsibility. And, but sometimes unforeseen circumstances and events happen. And these
right,
kind
but
of
Mr. Ali Rashid, you say that such things happen, but and these incidents do occur. How do you propose we come to a situation where we don't hear about these incidents in elections?
Actually, don't have those incidents.
Yeah, especially
not,
after
not merely not hearing it.
Yes.
Yeah, this was just the local body election. What about the general elections? Are you prepared, or the province is prepared for it?
Of course, we are prepared for it. And recently, as I'm mentioning again, NA 240 election happened like a month back at Landi, where a law and order situation happened. One person died from PSP, allegedly by a TLP activist, and there were fights going on. So all I'm trying to say that sometimes it becomes very difficult to control these kind of situations, which the police was trying to curtail. Maybe the damage may have been much worse, and if the police and the rangers wouldn't have intervened.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ali Rashid, for joining us and being a part of the debate. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for, and we really hope that as we move forward within our country and its political scenario, and of course the economic and political situation as well, we see positive changes coming sooner rather than later, and we come to a situation where we can actually take care of what is going on within the country and not be able to normalize things which are, of course, unacceptable. Thank you so much for watching the debate. We'll see you tomorrow.